Hey everyone, Chris Sawyer here. The Varietal Show is back. Welcome. We are at the Sangiacomo Vineyards, and we're going to talk a lot about this vineyard behind us and all the other vineyards that the family owns. But this is Steve Sangiacomo.
What's up, Sawyer?
How's it going, brother? All right.
I'm excited.
Me too. So, you guys, I've been a sommelier for a long time, and I've been a wine writer for a long time. I appreciate great families that are part of this culture, this wine culture, and the Sangiacomos are some of my most beloved family. I feel like I'm part of the family because I've been following them for so long. I've been tasting wines that they sell the grapes to these amazing winemakers. They make wines with them. You see Sangiacomo all over labels because you were kind of one of the vineyard owners where vineyard designates kind of came from, this term vineyard designates. But here we are. Steve, thanks for having me.
Cheers.
For having us, right?
Yeah, Chris is my dad, Angelo, who's Chris worked a lot with and stuff. I think he was the adopted son of the Sangiacomo family.
I will take that, and I love tasting their wines too. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But talking about Angelo and his brothers. So this is a great story, guys. I wrote a couple articles this past year on Carneros, and that's where we're at. So we're looking at Carneros right now. This is the great area that's shared by both Sonoma County and Napa. It was the first appellation to ever cross county lines in 1983. It's kind of funny because we think about Carneros being Napa and we think about it Sonoma County. It's actually shared by both. It's about 2/3 Sonoma County, and you have a lot of vineyards here, don't you?
Well, yeah, and we've been farming in Sonoma County and Carneros for 90 years, Chris.
90 years.
So the last 50 has been wine grapes.
Yeah.
The previous 40 was pear trees and so forth.
Yeah, so I think that's the big thing. So the family Sangiacomo. What do you feel like when you say that? Say Sangiacomo. I feel like I'm in Italy, and that's where the family came from. You came over here. You became farmers, very well-known farmers for the pear trees and different kinds of produce and fruit trees. But it was your father and his brothers that kind of said, Dad's not into wine, but let's try something. Tell us a little bit about that.
So my grandfather actually came over in the 20s from Italy, an immigrant.
Yep.
And he was worked in San Francisco, worked in Alameda, and he was a vegetable farmer. He loved farming in Italy. He wanted to get back into farming. So he used to come up to Sonoma Valley in the as just a vacation or just to kind of hang out, and he fell in love with our home ranch behind us because of the hills. You can't see it now because of the beautiful clouds and rain we just had. Thank God.
Thank you for rain. Thank you.
So he reminded him of the Genoa Hills of Italy. So he bought this ranch in 1927. It was fruit trees. Grew to be one of the largest pear growers in Northern California. And then they made the switch. As you alluded, my dad's generation, pear business was in decline, and Napa was planting wine grapes. Carneros, Louis Martini, Stanley Ranch, all that was planting wine grapes. So it was kind of a future with the Sebastiani family. We were good friends with, so we started planting wine grapes. Green Acres, which we'll be tasting.
Green Acres, that's what I put in front of you.
That's our first vineyard we ever planted.
That's amazing.
So that kind of got them, dipped their toe in the water of, viticulture, how to grow wine grapes, and then they made the switch and pulled out. 1981, they pulled out 400 acres of pear trees. Kind of went all in, and redeveloped all into wine grapes.
Yeah.
And so my dad likes to say, the product of grapes, wine's a lot better than canned pears. I can tell you
that. Exactly. Yeah. So a couple of stories I wrote this year. One was for Monty Prizer and the Prizer Key magazine, where I talked about people from Napa coming over here to Sonoma County, and why, if you love Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, you have to stop here at the new Sangiacomo Vineyards tasting room, which is amazing right here. That's where we're looking from. So you come here, this is what you see. It's amazing. You'll feel like you're in Genoa and in Italy, if you come here. But the thing is that, it's just a great destination. Everyone respects you over at Napa as much as they do here because, you've been a source for so many of the great wineries. You like Rombauer, you like Saintsbury, you like all these kinds of great producers that have made great Chardonnays through the years. Guess where they get a lot of the grapes? From the Sangiacomos. Why does it work here, Steve?
So Carneros was one of the earlier AVAs. As Chris alluded, we've been doing Sangiacomo Vineyard designates. Good luck, Bunchu. We were just talking about Jeff was the first one, 1979, did a Sangiacomo Vineyards. Now we have over 30 wineries that actually put Sangiacomo on the label. And Carneros, as we the AVA is developed. My dad was at the forefront with all the local, Mahoney, Francis Mahoney, Eileen Crane, all got together, and they realized Carneros has kind of the best of both worlds. You got the beautiful San Pablo Bay, all that wind, all that maritime influence coming in, and then you have the gap, as we talked about. We'll talk about the Paloma Gap. All the fog comes pouring in from the ocean, so it kind of mixes here, right in this beautiful part of the southern Sonoma County part of Carneros, and the Chardonnay flourishes.
Yeah, and we are really right. We're about 3 miles below downtown Sonoma, so that's right where we're at. When you say it's about 3 miles, if we threw a stone, 3 miles?
3 miles, yeah.
3 miles, yeah, it might be
I'd
3.5, 4.
I think I've walked it once or twice.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a little more than that. It seemed like it.
Yeah, you might have wandered home one night or two, huh?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we're in a very special zone here. It's really the best for Chardonnay in this area. There's no doubt about it. We've really become successful, not only for Chardonnay used for still wines, but also sparkling wines. Let's give some credit to Domaine Carneros and Gloria Ferrer and Domaine Chandon, who have really done a great job down here too. But what you're really known for is selling these grapes to really super high-end producers. There's so many great ones, but you started this own project by yourself. This is the new family brand called Sangiacomo Vineyards. Tell us a little bit about that.
So our family brand started in 2016. So as I alluded, we sold over 70 wineries, and we'll always be farmers. That's our DNA. That's in our blood of who we are. But in 2016 vintage, we started on family brand. It was kind of, people get that question, why? It's just, it's kind of the stars aligned. The timing was good we have another generation, 4th generation coming up. My brother, sister, and I, our generation, 3rd generation, running the family business. And we decided it's our time to kind of let consumers really taste and experience what our interpretation is in our vineyards. And
that's great.
Wine, I like to say grape growing is art, but obviously winemaking is art as well.
Yeah.
So.
I'll say one thing. James Mcphail, that makes these wines, one of my heroes. So, you got a great guy to help you there, to guide your light.
Then that's the key. We understood this whole was we needed James. We worked with for over 20 years. Local boy, Petaluma guy, just like you. So a lot of locals, multi-generational family here in Sonoma County. So we worked with him 20 years. He's worked with our vineyards. He understood our vineyards like we did, and it was important for him, and we shared the same philosophy, Chris. He really wanted the terroir of our vineyards to showcase in the wine. Of course, his art's in there. It tastes delicious, but he really winemaking can get heavy-handed, as we know, and he really wanted to make sure that the fruit in our vineyards are showcased in all our wines.
That's great. Well, speaking of great wines, this first one, the Green Acres, is fantastic. What I love about it is its texture. First of all, if you're drinking Carneros Chardonnay, you got to think lemon first off the bat. It's always got lemon in it. There's always some kind of lemon. It could be lemon meringue. It could be, tart lemon. It could be Meyer lemon. It could be all sorts of things. So it's got that characteristic. But it definitely has the fruit tree characteristics too. That apple pear are in there. And what I like about it is it's got texture and it kind of fills the mouth. It's a very sexy wine. Are you guys into sexy wines? I'm into sexy wines. You into sexy wines?
Of course.
Of course he is.
Yeah,
Boink.
Damn.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, I think that this is just a really great example of Carneros. And how old are these vines? Is there a little bit of old stuff?
Blend. Yeah, this is a blend. So Green Acres, it's alluded, it's a first vineyard. It's a 150-acre vineyard. The whole vineyard's been replanted. 1969 was our first planting. However, we still got 5 acres of it.
Yeah.
So we have a 52-acre Chardonnay vineyard that is a component. We do a single vineyard of it, 4 siblings separately. But part of it, we took some of it and we blended with 2 other blocks. So we have a Hyde clone and an Old Wenty clone, which is, I know we all love Old Wenty, the best Chardonnay clone out there. And so it's a composite. But the thing I love about this wine is it really, through all the multiple clones, you really taste the vineyard. You taste Carneros, number one, and then the vineyard. Green Acres is our most designated Chardonnay vineyard.
Yeah.
We have over 10 wineries putting Sangiacomo Green Acres on the label, and there's consistency. It's surrounded by 3 creeks, Roger, Fowler, Sonoma, so you really get that great minerality and richness. And
natural, acid. It's got to have acid, or else it's just, it's kind of fruit juice if it doesn't have good acid.
It's kind of protecting those creeks, I think, because it gets sunlight, it gets just the right amount of sun exposure, so the degree days are a little lower with all their, compared to some of our other neighboring vineyards, just kind of just sits in its own little world,
Yeah. Well, the second one we've got here too is a little bit different. So this is Sonoma Coast, but this is what we were talking about a little bit earlier in our love for Petaluma too. I mean, you're a Sonoma boy, but you know Petaluma pretty well. You've got vineyards over in Petaluma. How many acres do you have planted right now for the family?
So we have 1,600 acres of
1,600.
1,600. It'll cross over 14 vineyards.
Yeah.
So this Sonoma Coast 2019 chart is a blend of 3 of our vineyards, and it's our Green Acres, as we just tasted. It's our home ranch, which is right behind. It's our original, the old OG right here. We had to make sure we put that as part of our. We have a single bottle home ranch bottling, and part of it goes into this, and then it's our Roberts Road vineyard in the Petaluma Gap.
Yeah.
And that's there's 3 vineyards that go into it. 4 different clones. We have clone 95, 17, Old Wenty, and High.
Yeah, so that's amazing. So here we are tasting this one. This is a beautiful wine. You know, a couple of years ago, it wasn't this year, but last year, you won a big prize, didn't you? In the
it's this previous vintage.
North Coast, I know. And I got to write about it. So this wine won the top white of the North Coast Wine Challenge. And I'll tell you right now, there are some hardcore judges in that competition. I'm one of them, but, you know, there's Heidi Barrett and, you know, all these great winemakers from all over the place that really are in it, and great writers. And, you know, to come out on top, I wasn't surprised, to be really honest, that it was a Sangiacomo Vineyard designate. But for you guys to win it, it made me so happy. And, you know, I did a story for, I think it was for the Press Democrat or Sonoma Magazine on that. But it was just such a great thing to see, you know, this is the fruit from the vineyard. These guys are best known as farmers. Let's just put it that way. I mean, you're a farmer.
A farmer.
He's a farmer.
It's in the DNA.
The DNA. He's a farmer. He can't help that, you guys. But, you know, you have a love and passion for wine. And really, that wine taking top white for the whole competition was a big deal.
It was. And it was, I mean, I know exactly where I was when I got the call. When my phone was playing press center with Steve Falk, who, and then Tony Lombardi, all these people. I think you may have texted me right after. It was like the Academy Award. I felt like the Academy Award of winning Best Picture, right? And it was a great honor. I mean, it's something that it's a showcase to just you know, our vineyards. You know, at the end of the day, we're farmers, and we like to give credit to where credit's due. And it starts with farming. Wine all starts in the vineyard, right, Chris?
Yeah, exactly. And what I like about this wine too is it just has vibrancy, and I think that's really the Petaluma Gap and Sonoma Coast in general. So what we're talking about here, so we've got Carneros behind us, but this part of Carneros is also part of the Sonoma Coast, which overlaps the hills here, which is the Sonoma Mountain. It goes all the way to the ocean, and then it goes all the way up to basically the top of Sonoma County, all coastal regions up there. We are pretty much the most eastern edge of the Sonoma Coast appellation right here. But you've been working with the fruit from Carneros for a long time. I mean, you guys have been growing it over there for a long time. I love that Roberts Road, by the way. It's one of my favorite things. If you go up to Sonoma State University, it's very close nearby there. It's about, you know, a few miles, 2 to 3 miles due east of Sonoma State University, and it's sitting right there.
And it was undiscovered, and that's, I think, goes back to kind of our farming passion and finding areas of, you know, Sonoma, wherever, to grow, you know, world-class wines. And this was undiscoverable to my grandfather of my dad's generation. And then, but that Roberts Road, in 1998, my dad was driving by, he saw, knew the neighbor, and there wasn't any vineyards around there, and there's maybe a 2-acre Pinot vineyard that the Fendlers had. And then we developed it, and it turned into be, you know, it's a world-class site for Gaps Crowns right next to it. They planted a couple years later, and it just, again, I like to say about that, as Chris talked, we talked about fog coming in from the bay. It's one of the first to get it from the ocean, so it kind of hangs in there a little longer. And it kind of has
a little bit, I mean, it's a different, I mean, it and Gaps Crown, which is another really well-known, distinctive vineyard designate on a lot of people's labels, but to be really honest, they're very different and dynamic. They're not, I mean, you can see each other from right there, but yours is in the flatland, which I think is why I like that a little bit. Just it kind of goes in my direction a little bit more, is because that fog lingers there a little bit more, and it's getting that kind of rotating kind of breezes that are coming through the creek land there too. So it's a little bit cooler than it is up on that hillside, and that burns off quicker. It gets more exposure, obviously, in the late sunshine too, up there at Gaps Crown, whereas you do not. But that's why I love the acidity of these wines. I mean, I just think that there's still so much freshness in there, but I'm also getting another little characteristic from this wine that sets it apart from the other one. That's a little bit of white peach that I'm getting out of here too. There's a little bit of a melon kind of underlying tone too, but the acid is really sharp acid, which I like. It's very different than the Carneros one. The acid level is just sharp, and I love sharp acid. I want it.
And that side, so that where you alluded to on Roberts Road off right in Pengrove is there's Copeland Creek. So for centuries, we look back, Copeland Creek meandered right over the property. So what's left is just stone, silt, beautiful rocks. I mean, when we planted the vineyard, we kept we're still overturning rocks, and we just build a nice little rock house over there or something.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because so much of Petaluma is really clay, and it's kind of heavy clay. Whereas this part, because the runoff from the water, it's really silty kind of clay.
It is,
which is very different. Yeah. And so that's why the Petaluma Gap appellation, which I helped name a long time ago, 20 years ago, the Petaluma Gap, the godfather of the Gap, right here, boom. But you know, it's an area that's very special, and when you find these little sites that are so special, I mean, I think that Gaps Crown and you are two exemplary examples of exactly why Petaluma Gap's so interesting, because you're only like seriously 100 yards away from each other, but they're very dynamically different from one another.
Yeah, and I think the consistency is the consistency is the acid in the mouthfeel. Though I think there are different levels of Burgundian varieties, right? That Pinot Chard that thrive in the Petaluma Gap, and the Syrah, and there's others too, but those are the two they're known for. But the wind, it's the wind that comes. It's the wind. There's consistency of different elevations, as you alluded, but just the wind that continues to kind of beat on the skins and kind of creates that consistency, and that's where the consistency comes with Petaluma Gap.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of great grapes, we are also talking about Pinot Noir, you guys. So, you know, Pinot Noir has come along very fast. You know, back in the old days, really before the late 90s, there was not that much Pinot Noir out there, you guys, and it wasn't a popular grape, and it wasn't what it is today. It has come on quick. How would you say that your family addressed that? I mean, you're best known for Chardonnay, there's no doubt about it, but how did the growth of the Pinot Noir start for you guys?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, first of all, Pinot Noir is my favorite variety. If I have to pick one, I have to. But I love Chardonnay and I love Cab Zins. I love them all. But Pinots. So, but the interesting thing is in 1969 we planted Green Acres. We weren't sure what varieties are going to do what. We planted Chardonnay. We actually planted Pinot. We planted Cabernet. We planted Zin, Riesling. There's all different varieties. And my dad was always inspired by the Hanzels, which
right up there on the hill.
And he had Pinot Noir from there, and he just was inspired of, you know, just how wonderful a variety it is. And he fell in love with it. So we were committed. Or since 1969, we've been planting Pinot Noir. Really, you know, kind of finding where it grows best, clones, what soil types it grows. But I think the growth of it is we've learned as an industry how to grow it and make it, and we continue to enhance that. And
I think
it's all about education.
We're all getting better. I mean, the Pinot Noir is going to a different level. I mean, we give a lot of credit to our friends up in Willamette Valley because, you know what, they were a little bit ahead of us, and there's no doubt about it. And their growing conditions up there are harsh. You know, we're pretty consistent here. Carneros is very consistent, and we're learning that the Petaluma Gap and areas like that are pretty darn consistent too. We knew that Russian River was. But it's really finding the right place, and more importantly in this case, probably the clones are as important as anything. What works in that kind of soil? What works in those conditions? Is it super windy? Is it not so windy? Does it get some kind of warm sun points there? You know, what works there? And these clones are so interesting, and I'm fascinated by clones, and I think it's just because of Pinot Noir.
Yeah, and you hit on site and clone, right? Yeah. I mean, site obviously trumps anything, right? Yeah. You got to find the right site. But clones, Roberts Road is the perfect example. This Sonoma Coast Pinot Noir 2018 is a blend of our Roberts Road, which our Roberts Road it's one of our showcase Pinot Noir vineyards of our 14. It's one of the most vineyard designated, if not most vineyard designated Pinot Noirs. And so that's a component in this blend. And then there's our Frederick Vineyard, which is in the down by Anna Keller State, Griffin's Lair, right down there.
Love those.
And then in Carneros, our Emerald Vineyard, just right in the heart of kind of our all our state vineyards are here. But I think the clonal, like Robert showed the Dijon clones because it's really cooler. You alluded that really cool fog.
Yep.
We needed Dijon clones that have just a little touch of early ripeness. Perfect match, right?
Yep.
Then we go down to Frederick, we have Pommard. Pommard's a beautiful
Pommard.
Hillside Pommard. Right, just beautiful, just
Love that.
Part of that's experiment. Every year we learn. It's
Yeah.
just like learning and
That's
tasting.
one of the old clones, and it keeps coming back, and people are like, "Oh man, this was so good. What were we doing? You know, like not thinking this would be great." We're finding the right sites for it. I think is more important. And to be really honest, I mean, you go up to Willamette Valley, they brought in the Dijon clones. If you put me in front of all those wines and I taste through them and I go like, I like that one, like that one, like that one. Guess what they are? They're Pommard. They're not the Dijon clones in most cases, and it's because they had them up there too. And so this experimentation is ongoing. I mean, we have gone to a different level with these Pinots. Your Pinot is amazing. I mean, it's mouth-filling, wonderful. It has a lot of the classic kind of cherry plum kind of notes to it, but it's got a lot of depth to it, and that's what I like so much. I mean, I want pork really bad, like a nice big pork chop about that fat right now, grilled, would be really nice with this right this second.
Oh God, I'm starved. I could do. That's the thing I love. My quote is Pinot Noir goes with everything.
Indeed.
You can pair it with all sorts of obviously fishes and lighters, and even some. I mean, this Pinot will stand up some red meat.
Yeah. Are you gonna serve this at Thanksgiving?
Absolutely.
That's a given.
That's
a given,
turkey,
you guys.
Turkey and Pinot.
Yeah, well, don't forget, there's ham on that table too.
There's
so once
ham.
Again, we're talking about pork.
And you know, raviolis, Italian family. Every holiday we have raviolis. Even though
raviolis, Sangiacomo's and
turkey and raviolis. You know, we do have stuffing. We do. We still have the breaded stuffing.
Yeah.
And ravioli. You talk about a carb, overload, right?
Yeah.
Ravioli, stuffing, potato. We got it all. So.
Yeah. Family walk afterwards.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
No, I mean, I just love the texture. I love it's a very giving wine. You know, it's giving. It's covering the whole palate, but it's also very generous. And there's a lot of fruit in here, but it's got that nice subtle spice. And I think you were touching on this before with James Mcphail, superstar winemaker, James Mcphail. He's not over oaking these things. I mean, that's the most important thing. Just give it little nuances and let it be what it is. Where did it come from? It came from the Sangiacomo Vineyards, and that's a great thing. Don't cover that up, and that's the thing.
Well, I think mouthfeel. I think that's my
texture.
That texture, right? And that's everyone's goal with a lot of wines, and Pinot Noir especially. And that's where we align with James.
Yeah.
That it's got to be a mouthfeel. And you know what his personal brand is called? Tongue Dancers. So
Tongue Dancers, exactly.
So but
look
even
that
all
his
his
Tongue Dancers wines. Yeah.
But with the Sangiacomo wines, our vision with obviously talking about all our vineyards, but with the Pinot especially is on texture, mouthfeel, and making sure that, and along with tasting the vineyard, tasting the terroir.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing. I think a lot of people have learned this lesson. All these vintners that have purchased fruit from the Sangiacomos, I think that's a lesson that they didn't think they were going to learn, but they started realizing that this fruit has its own character, and you can't cover that up with oak, and you can't make it this big oak bomb and make it sugary and all these kinds of things. And I really appreciate how you gather together a lot of the vintners together, and you have like kind of a little taste through, and you kind of talk to each other, and these are what great vineyard owners do. It's like sharing their insight with the vintners themselves, and having the vintners like learn from each other. I think the Sangiacomo Vineyards are the exclusive example of like what could be something that was so special about California that we didn't know, but you had to have someone, a family like the Sangiacomos, come in here and do something that was crazy at the time. But back in the late 60s, planting Chardonnay was ridiculous. There was no Chardonnay out there. No one cared about Chardonnay. But your family did it, and what you've done with Pinot Noir, you've pretty much done the same thing.
It is, and you talk about the vintners tasting we do. It's all about a partnership. So we've hosted for over 30 years. Last year, because of COVID, imagine what would take break a string. COVID, right?
COVID.
But we had for 30 straight years, we bring our vintners together and we taste barrel samples from the previous year. Learn. It's all about education. Learning for us, we learned a lot about our vineyards tasting. Because we put so much time and effort in farming. Trying to understand our farming practices better and better. What works from leafing, timing. To me, everything on farming is timing. And just with everything, if you could figure out the best way to time our leafing, time how we, when we go green drops, all these different elements that go into how many times we go through, and we go through a vineyard dozen times a year. We have our guys go through, our hand crews go through, and just kind of create that art, the art of the vine, right? So
I mean, I'll give this family a lot of credit. They have great workers. Another thing that they really kind of innovated was actually night farming, and night farming is very today everyone does it, but you guys got out there with trucks and projected light devices.
Or we had a mechanic who actually fabricated one that is still used to this day. And he wasn't amazing fabricator, but he wasn't a structural engineer, I can tell you that. So he fabricated, we got it engineered, right? And we started, in the 80s. We were night harvesting in the 80s.
Way ahead of the curve. And I mean, why would you night harvest? Night harvest, it's better on the employees. They're not out there slaving in hot conditions. B, and this is probably the most important thing, you're preserving the fruit character, because you bring it in, and then when the winemaking team gets there first thing in the morning, it's nice and chilly out, and it's preserving the grape clusters inside these bins. So when they get there, they're really nice and ready to go. But they're also, they've got their acidity really preserved right there.
And there's a conservation effort, because wineries like the cold chill stuff, and it comes chill. I mean, you pick it at night, it'll stay cold. Maybe the top couple inches get along, it'll stay cold all day. It preserves all that temperature. And the other thing is, night harvesting allows us to, again, get fruit early, optimum. We can pick, again, timing.
Yeah.
So we really pride ourselves on, when a winery wants the fruit to pick, we'll get it within 24, 48 hours.
Yeah.
Right? Kind of creating, when that pH acid bricks is perfect, that's when they want it. So.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I got to give a little bit of credit here to Steve's brother, and that's Michael. And, one thing that Michael did for society in general was he became a founding member of the Wine Brats, which is a really interesting group that really in the late 90s, or the 90s in general, really did some stuff out there in the marketplace to promote great wines. And it was a great trio of Sonoma Valley characters. Him, Jeff Bundschuh, the great Jeff Bundschuh, of Gunlock Bundschuh Winery, and John Sebastiani, who came together, and they really started this group that became one that had chapters in 32 different metropolitan areas. They were on college campuses. We were doing wine raves across the nation, all of this stuff. And this was a farming family that was a part of that started it. And it really made a big difference, especially for me, who was with WineX magazine, and we had a complete partnership with the Wine Brats, and I got to go to a lot of these wine raves. You heard right, wine raves. Before they were even, like, anyone conceptually could have thought about this. We were inventing them. And so I give a lot of credit to your brother too.
Yeah, no, that group, it was kind of, they're ahead of their time. Right?
They were.
Really
they were ahead of the time. Yeah.
Trying to get, younger people introduced to wine, right? And, as we continue to, get, all different, levels of wine education and wine consumers, right? And I think they bring people, make it acceptable. Wine Hall had this kind of presumptuous, it's, wine's, it's unaffordable, or I don't understand wine. But wine, as Chris is one of the best wine educators, sommeliers in the world, wine is pretty simple. Put it in your mouth.
How does it work?
How does it? If it tastes good,
continue drinking it.
Continue drinking it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's there's a lot of education out there, but I just having the backing of the Michael Sangiacomo and that group was a wonderful thing. It made me a great person as far as my palate went too. And just tasting these wines through the years that come from these vineyards that they own. 1,600 acres, you guys, 1,600 acres that they farm. It's a big deal. And the other thing about Steve too that I like so much is, away from this, we actually drink beer and cocktails really well together. We do, and I really appreciated it every time that his family would come into the Carneros Bistro, where I was there for 10 years, and have dinners. We would have the best times. His dad is like my father figure, and his mom is a wonderful person, sister, and the whole family, the whole extended family is amazing. And it's just, you see it here, you look out into this vineyard, and you understand that each one of these vines is cared for by this family.
And that's why I love having our tasting room here. And our hospitality is now open. We're open through the winter and all summer. really people to come and, it's the first time in, for really history, and since 2000, last year we opened, people can really see our history and really understand. You can see all our wine wall when you come in, all the wonderful producers, and then you come back and taste our family's wine brand, and just everything that goes into making world-class wine here in Sonoma County. And
exactly.
I appreciate Chris. Chris was one of the first at the Carlos Bistro of bringing growers to the forefront, really understanding, doing vineyard before we had our wine label. You hosted multiple vineyard designated tastings. He brought our producers together, really understand terroir and growers, and I appreciate all the support you've given.
Well, it's no problem. It's when you know great people, you stick with them, and it's been a fun experience, and that's why I think you guys should all come and visit this amazing tasting room that this is our view right back here. It's amazing right around the corner here. We're watching people having a wonderful time over there, and it's not that far from San Francisco. This is the thing, it's really, you're looking at a 45-minute drive. But watch 37, you guys. Do not go to 37 late afternoon. It doesn't work. That's why we find another way. But don't go there. Yeah. But I think that the thing is that it's accessible too, and you're right here. You're kind of, you and your vineyards are the gateway to Sonoma County. And that's what makes it so special for me to be here, and for hopefully you guys to visit. Sangiacomo Vineyards, you can look it up online.
SangiacomoWines.com to book a tasting. Yeah. There's a vineyards website. You can learn about the vineyards, and then SangiacomoWines.com to book a tasting, and please come visit us.
But if you really want to see the maps of what they do, go to Sangiacomo Vineyards, and you'll be very impressed by the single vineyards. You can see what is planted there and all of that. I mean, great educators too. It's just a wonderful thing that your family does, and it's so fun to be here and to drink your wine.
Amen.
All right. Thanks so much for joining us, you guys. This is a very good one for the Varietal Show, and I hope you guys drink more of this fabulous Sangiacomo Vineyard designate. Cheerios.
Cheers.